character that's kind of based around a Lego character. So first things first, we want to create a boundary. This is just, a nice way to make sure that you're within the maximum that we can give you for the mold. So the max is 30 by 80. You may want to go smaller than that, and the easiest way to tell is we've probably gone online or from your drawings, you have like a pretty good idea of what the proportions are. The way that we can insert those drawings will really, really help you, and that's called Insert Canvas, which I've just clicked here. You can slow it down if you need to. Just remember the video can be obviously slowed down. So we can use either one of these characters. I'm actually going to use this one because it's going to be easier, because we're going to use this for both sides, okay? So first things first, we're going to just get to where we can see this thing. We're going to move this so that it's sitting nicely here, and then we will scale this up so that it fits just relatively like the maximum of what we can fit. So we'll do something like that. Remember, this has to come out of the mold in one straight shot. This should be fine for what we're using it for. So we're going to draw first from this side, and then we're going to draw on the other side. So we're going to sculpt this thing. Now, what we want to do is we want to break this down into pieces. So first things first, we could start from the feet. Remember, this does have to come out of the mold, so things like these little clampy hands are going to have to get closer, because when it comes out, it has to be more of like a cone shape, or else it'll get caught with these things called undercuts. Like, you won't be able to get the mold out very easily. So we could start with this. Yeah. And you could do this a few ways. If we look at it from the side, you'll notice that there's a little cutout here for the leg. You can choose to make it like this, but in general, I would actually recommend keeping it straight all the way down, because these little undercuts, they'll come out, but we can always make those cuts later. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a sketch on this plane, right where this guy is, and I'm just going to draw in these legs, okay? Because this is going to be the first thing that I want to keep separate, and I want to keep all these pieces separate because I'm going to make cuts to them, and I don't want to worry about it cutting out other pieces. And like I said before, you're going to want to make sure that this is one piece, because we're going to cut it out, and we'll deal with all that later. So we got that. Then we make this kind of general triangle shape right here. You got that guy. That'll be easy enough. And then this little rectangle thing right here. That'll work. Here, let's just... If you hit escape, you can get out of the tool so you can move it. It's easier. Yeah, that should be fine. So we have our general shape, and you know what I'm going to say? I'll try and show you how I would maybe approach this, and you can, change it as you want. This is yours. I would say the easiest thing for any of these is just to connect the whole shape and then cut it out later. This has it mounted on the side though, so we're probably going to want to make that actually afterwards. So I'm going to get rid of that. We're going to want to add that on. That's going to be easier to draw from like the side and then cut it out this way. And for this one, we're going to use a revolve. So I think that's good. We'll start with this base, and we'll just extrude it, and then we'll cut it so it's the right shape. So for the extrude, let's go here. And, oh, I might have to hide the canvas for a second. Oh, it has our original sketch too. I'll hide that. That way that goes away. So we'll just extrude these. Right there, you're going to notice there's like a little gap. We want that as well. So when we extrude this, it picks up some of that, and that's going to make it easier for us, because then we don't have to add a whole ton of stuff. We want to make it relatively like bigger, because we can always remove material. It's much harder to add it and get it to look seamless. So I think that's good right there. We'll put the canvas back on and just kind of compare it. But, it looks like pretty close to what we're going for. So you have the first piece. Now, the next part of this is going to be cutting it from the side. So what we want to do is we want to draw on this plane right here. And we're going to insert another one of these. And in this case, another canvas will get inserted, and it'll be the same image, because we found an image with both side view. And again, this is going to be your drawing when you do it, so easy enough. But I want to do this so that this matches up. We want to make sure, whoops, okay. We want to make sure that his feet, or their feet, go here, and this is where this top piece ends. So we have a little further to go, something like almost that. We'll just make this a tad bigger. Yeah, something like that. We'll smaller actually. Yeah. So there you go. So we'll put this here. I actually like to scoot that all the way back because I'm not trying to cut out a whole bunch of new stuff. And we'll keep it there. So we got this. We have the front view. We have this piece. So now we're going to just trace what it looks like here from the side. So easiest way to do that is to go over right there and just make the cutouts that we want. If you can't see or you can't click or you're starting to click that little navigator, don't worry, you can do that and then just click this little check mark. And then in here you have tools like arc. I would use the arc 3-point for this one because you know it's going to end right here for the cutout. And that'll just make it easier for you. And then over here, you're going to have this slight undercut, but that should be okay. Just remember if you have anything, definitely picked up something there. So if it's having a problem like that one, just connect it outside of this. It'll be so much easier. Then hit escape and you can move the thing into position. That's just going to be an easier way to draw that because you don't want it to like accidentally go off the plane. So for little things that are rounded, you want to hit the check mark there. But for these little rounded pieces, it's actually easier if you add the arc right here on the edge, because then you're not going back in and filleting things and worrying about it. So you have that little arch that's already built into it. And then you can chop this thing up right here. That's great. And yeah, so we'll zoom out. And if I hide the body and I hide the canvas, you'll see that this is kind of like not completely blue and it's not a cutout. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we have this whole thing kind of like a cookie cutter. So we have this whole piece so it goes all blue and then we turn everything back. So that way we can see, okay, it's going to cut out all this stuff. And sure enough, you'll only know once you start extruding it. So, yep, look at the body, look at the canvas, and then we'll do the extruded cut. So we have this, and we're going to extrude it through our body right there. So that should do it. Let's see what it looks like over here. It looks pretty good. And we'll click OK. Yeah, sure enough, it looks pretty decent for the beginning. You will want to add something just to show that these two legs are there. So I'll show you what I mean by that. So right here, you'll want to draw again on here, just sort of like where the demarcation is for the legs. That way you can at least tell in the mold like, oh, there was a, you know, there were two legs. So I'll just do that. There you go. And so now you have two legs. And yeah, so simple extrusion, you got most of the body there. And then like I said, we're going to make these arms. So I'm going to draw them from the front. No, I'm going to draw them from the side, right? Because we want to have that piece. Or, you know what? No, I'm going to draw them from the front and then cut them from the side. You can do it a few different ways. Especially like if you were making this like a real toy, you'd want the little pegs in there and stuff. But for what we're doing, we need it all attached because that's going to be the only way we can really mold it. So I think it's best if we actually draw this thing on this plane and then chop it up. And we're going to make it new bodies. That way when we chop it up, it's not going to affect this stuff, so we can separate it. I'll show you what I mean by that. So you're going to just make one arm because we're going to mirror it. And we're going to just draw sort of this spline line. It's going to be the right shape. Then click right here because it's going to get trickier to make it there. I actually think the arc tool is probably your best friend there. So that way you can say, hey, I want you to go to here and then curve. See, so much easier. Yeah, that looks good. And then over here, you'll just want to make a line from there to there. That'll make that solid. So that turns blue. And you hit escape so you can get out of the tool. And you come over here. So it's like right on almost the edge, but not quite. You will want these to be together, but like I said, we can move that afterwards or do something else with it. And I don't want you to worry about that as much. And then over here, these little claw hands are actually going to be the hardest part because these would be a real undercut. So this is where you're going to have to make some artistic... I don't know how to say it best, but basically you're going to have to make it how you think you can get it done efficiently. I'll explain to you how the mold works. It's a single part. So think of it like anything touching the base is going to come out easier. Anything in a straight line is going to come out easier. Anything else is going to be an uphill battle. So that just means like if it's not closer to the body, it probably won't mold well. It'll rip the mold when you take it out. The whole thing will just be not as fun. But for the sake of argument, I'm going to show you like you could just use this ball as a hand and then chop it up afterwards. And the way you would do that is, you'd make like this cutout or something um, by making two circles. So if I have these two and I move the circle in here, for example, I can shrink this. So it's going to be like, maybe like that. And put it like there-ish. And then I just have to make those arcs. So the arcs are like these 3-point arcs, wherever I want it to curve. So I can go here, I can go there, I can make the arc. Same thing over here, and I can make an arc. So, all right, so let's say we extrude this and we see what we're working with. So go into extrude, click here, click there, click everything you want to keep, don't click anything you don't. If you don't like something, don't worry, you can go back and edit the sketch, it'll update as you go. And then we want to tell this thing that we want it to extrude, and you have to figure out from where to where. I'm going to have it go to about there, just so I don't have to do a whole bunch of excess cutting. We're not going to cut, we're going to make it a new body, like I said. We're going to click OK. We will look at it, it's kind of like that, that's pretty good. And then we're going to draw on this side. So we're going to make a cut right here, we're going to create a sketch. Remember, this gives us the profile. Now, it does have the arm kind of arched, so I'm going to respect that, and we're going to do it. The way we want to do that is we want to keep it tighter to the body, so I'm just going to move it here, and then I'm going to just sort of trace this thing out. So here, let's zoom in. That's what I got so far. Let's move this guy right there, so we at least have the arm just in one solid piece. We'll do the same over here. And I'm just going to do this in parts, okay? Because I can always use this to cut out the outer perimeter. And I can show you can use some tools to get rid of lines you don't need. So over here, we're going to say this is a 3-point arc as well. It's going to make a little shoulder there. And I don't really like where that elbow is, so just give me 1 second. I'm going to shift this down a little bit further. Oh, now you're going to be like that. Okay. That gives me pause, because that means it's probably a 3D sketch. 1 second. No, that's pretty good. We're just on the wrong side sketching. Okay. Yeah, so we got that. Now, if you look, the peg fitting here is much further down. So let's take a look here. We're going to want to make this little cup. So let's do that. Come down. I'll just trace some of these lines here and there. And then I will go over here to the arc tool, the 3-point arc tool. I'll go from here to there. That's pretty good. And then I will go up straight, and that will be overlapped. Okay. Now, like I said, obviously this isn't going to cut well because we have like all these overlapping pieces, and I drew them kind of clunky, but that's okay because I have this tool. This is called the trim tool, and what it does is eliminates lines you don't need so that you can make these into like one solid profile, okay? So now it's like the right shape, and that's great. It says constraints were lost, whatever. Don't worry about that part because, again, we're just trying to make our sculpture. Then I make a rectangle over it. The rectangle tool right here is fine. You just want enough room so that when you go to extrude, it has the outside, because that's actually what I'm going to cut away. That's the material I'm going to get rid of, right? And like I said, I want to hide this because I don't want to cut that body. I want to only cut this body. So I'm going to go into extrude. I'm going to drag that cutout that I have all the way through here. And I want to show you it's going to pretty quickly devour that piece and make me kind of the shape that I'm going for. Now you can round this out. You can do all kinds of things with this. Remember, the fillet tool is your friend. If you want to fillet it, it can round these things for you. Any of those steps are extra, and that's great if you do it. It will come out better for a design. And again, you want to look at it with the body and then take the canvas away to make sure you're getting kind of what you're looking for. Now, again, I would not recommend things like these cutouts in the mold, because unless you make this thing completely flat, which we kind of are doing, that way we can pull it from the front. If you're doing this 3D and you want to really like get the back of his head, you're going to have a bigger problem. So I'm doing this with the idea that we are not going to basically mess with, trying to take this thing out as a 3D shape. We're going to do it as just that. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. Now, you have the option of mirroring this, but you need to make a plane that is in the midpoint of this thing, okay? There are a few ways you can do that. Easiest, though, draw a line. Just come up here. You have this object here. It already has a line, so we don't even need to draw a line. We're just going to make a point. We're going to come over here to the midpoint. We're going to click this and the point, and now we have this reference. That's going to be really helpful when I am going to make a plane that goes right in the middle of this guy so that I can mirror things and so that I can make the head. The head goes really quick, and so let me just show you where we're going to use that. So I have the plane already selected, but let's say you didn't. You click right here, and instead of distance, you're going to go to object, and that object is going to be that point. It goes right down the center of that guy. And now when I go to mirror, my mirror command right here, I can select this arm, and I can select that plane, and I have both arms. So, makes light work. Now, I can also draw on this plane. I can come over here to create sketch, and it already made me this dashed line, but I'm just going to do it again. We are going to say, hey, this is going to be the axes, and I want it to be about there. Click OK on that one. And I just have to draw like half of this head. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in, because this is going to be quite tight. And I'm going to put those little arcs in after. So I'm tracing the lines. Oh, get out of my way. Okay. Okay. Why won't you go to 90 degrees? That's weird. I'm going to hit tab and just click 90 because that's annoying. And I'm just going to put this line in. Okay, that's being really, really finicky. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw the line in this direction and then move it because that's just annoying for no reason. And then we'll drag it up. It's not like you have to fight it, you just have to get out of the way. So we'll do that. And then I'm going to draw this front face line right there. And I'm going to draw this one. I'm going to connect that to that. Okay. Yep. And then I'm going to go over here, draw from there to there. Cool. Now, if it's not perfectly straight, don't worry, you can use this tool and it will be. And now I'm going to go in with all of those arcs. So I will say, hey, there's an arc from here to here. And there's an arc from here to here. And I need a straight line there, but that'll be fine. And there's an arc from here to there. And yeah, just that straight line and we're done. So I go from here to there. Now, like I said before, if you don't like that, you can always use this tool to say, hey, you shouldn't be there. And it snapped right in. And what's cool about this is now I can just revolve this entire thing. If you, for any reason, want to put in a separate piece for that or whatever, you could. I don't recommend it because it won't really come out in the mold if it's too tiny, but it would be a nice accent. So I'm looking at his face, and what I need to do is I have my profile selected, and then it's asking me for an axis. So the axis is actually going to be in that profile we drew. Sure enough, looks like this Lego head. It's a new body. We'll take the canvas away, see what we're working with, and you got a Lego figure. Cool.